I never know when you're ready to go. Then the first few seconds of the show are always just looking at the screen. It's very funny.
Well, I have to tweet it. That's the holdup, is that because you start the show, I have to go. I have to wait for the YouTube to populate the link to grab
Now
the
I know.
link.
I always wondered what you were doing.
Yeah,
I was
that's
always
what I'm
like,
doing. Is I'm grabbing the link and going to TweetDeck and then tweeting it. And I have to type, but I need to mute my mic first and then going. This is Locked On Nuggets.
oh shoot! Now I'm off my game.
Welcome to Locked On Nuggets, your daily Denver Nuggets podcast, part of the Locked On Network, your team every day. Thanks for making us your first listen each and every day. We're free and available on all platforms, including YouTube. If you want to join the show, that's the best way for you to do it. You get to come in and join the chat room on the chats.
You never know when we're going to share baby photos of ourselves or high school photos of ourselves. You never know. All mystery, all surprises.
I got the hammer tonight. Bringing the hammer back because it's Michael Malone night. And I feel like Michael Malone would appreciate having a hammer on a podcast. We got folks in the chat like Miroslav, who's first tonight. We got Philip Andrew Sohn, who says, not surprised at the extension, by the way. Eddie Sell wants to know about Vlatko.
I know, man. The only person on earth that's really pressing us for Vlatko details.
Vlatko news. Big news today. We'll talk about the Michael Malone extension. We will dig into that for the first two segments and just go deep on Malone and what it means and the decisions and how it forecasts and all those types of things. We'll get into that in the first two segments. In the third segment, we'll preview the game versus the Phoenix Suns on a back-to-back after the win versus the Wolves. I'll give you a breakdown of what went on in the Western Conference on Wednesday night. Spoiler alert, it was really good for Denver. Outside of the Mavs win, it was really good for Denver. Everything broke in Denver's way on Wednesday night. Let's go ahead and start here. Michael Malone agrees. First reported by Adrian Wojnarowski. Big surprise. And then confirmed by the Nuggets in an official press release. Also, obviously, confirmed by the excellent Mike Singer of the Denver Post, that Michael Malone has been signed to a multi-year extension, which is a very selective phrase. Terms of the deal, as per usual, were not disclosed. That will probably come out at some point. Someone will dig that out. We don't know how much the money is for. I'm going to bet it's quite a bit. Also, by the way, the Raptors, yeah, a little bit of change. Not probably more.
Hey, man, shouts to Michael Malone. He's done a good job. You like to see people be rewarded, paid handsomely for doing a good job.
Yeah. And especially I'll say this for, look, the Kroenkes literally didn't want to pay George Karl. Didn't want to pay a Hall of Famer after he won.
There was more there, though. There was more there.
Yeah, there was a lot. There was a lot there for sure. But, they've really, I will say this, the Kroenkes have poured a lot of money into their teams the last couple of years. Rapids coach also gets an extension. Congrats to him as well. I guess let's start here. What was your first reaction when you saw the news?
Shock at the timing. There are 9 games left in the season, Matt. There's 9 games left. This is the weirdest timing to me. Maybe it shouldn't be. I don't know. Is there precedent for guys getting extensions this late into the season when, by the way, this is the craziest part. By the way, the Nuggets might be in the play-in. They might miss the playoffs altogether this year. So not that I think Malone's job should have hinged on that or whatever, but it's just to me, the timing of it was a bit of a surprise, but the fact that it happened was not. Tim Conley, the Tim Conley era, and I'll call it Josh Kroenke too. The Tim Conley, Josh Kroenke era has been about continuity. They've stuck with their guys they believe in through bad times, through uncertain times quite a bit, and it's paid off. And so I'm not at all surprised that they see Michael Malone and what he's done so far and think, we want to see this through. And that's how it was phrased, by the way, by Woj today about him seeing it through this era of Nuggets basketball.
Which is an interesting way to phrase it on a number of levels. The timing was interesting. It's not the first time. I'll say this. Their coaches have been extended at the end of the season. That's happened before. I think Alvin Gentry got a year. I think there's been a couple of other examples of guys going through a year and having a really good season and then getting an extension. But I think what's curious is if this was a decision that you were going to reach, why would you not make it earlier?
Yeah.
I'm not criticizing. I'm genuinely curious as to what the answer to that question is. Like,
do you think here? Let me ask you this, Matt. Do we need to spend a little bit more time on like the positives of this? Because we're already getting ready to put the tinfoil hats on, and I'm not saying that sarcastically. Like, honestly, is there a reason that it was happened right now? Is a very interesting question, and we can explore some of the possible reasons that might be. But do we need to like first? Is that like story number one, or do we need to sort of first go into like what this means for the Nuggets? Or I almost feel dirty going right into the conspiracy portion of it, if that makes sense.
I understand that. I think more of my thing is, yeah, we can go ahead and circle back. I'll start here. I think Malone probably deserved the extension sooner. Look, that's no
Ooh,
surprise.
that's an interesting one.
I've been a Malone guy. I'm going to continue to be a Malone guy. Coaches are my favorite people in the league to talk to. I just like talking to coaches more than executives are always kind of going to be slippery. That's part of the gig. And coaches are always a little grizzled, and they're always a little weary, and they're always kind of and they're always dealing with so much frustration and stress. They always kind of want to vent a little, and they always have pretty good perspective. I get a lot out of it. I've gotten a lot. I've learned more about the NBA from talking to coaches than anybody else. And Malone honestly has been
also who we talk to the most by a large margin.
By a large margin. But I mean, even in like, I've requested more one-on-ones with coaches than anybody else. And I want, because that's part of it, is like, I really want to understand the profession. I want to understand like how these guys think and what goes into it, because so much of the job is not what we see. And then like we see about, I don't know, 20% more than what the fan sees. This is why conversations about coaching oftentimes bug me, because it's based off of, he left that guy in too long, he's a bad coach. And it's like, that is such a tiny fraction of what makes up the ecosystem of coaching. It's about, like Frank Vogel once told me, it's not the decisions, it's decisions that you have to make about when and which decisions you're going to make. Oh, yeah. He once told me that, and I was like, yeah, that sounds pretty. And he's like, and you're navigating so many things all the time, because everybody that matters has your number. The owner, right. The owner, the front office, the players, the agents, everyone, wants to give you some input and try and get in your ear. So I think it's an interesting position to be in. And look, the Vegas win total thing is like, okay, who cares? It's a betting total. It's supposed to get money on both sides of the market, but it is a pretty good estimation of like, how good is this team supposed to be this year? What's the expectation for this team? And when I found out that the Malone's Nuggets have gone over in every season, right, except for the bubble season, that was like a very big, and
they also were going to go over it. That one they were on pace to as well, or close, yeah, at least.
Yeah, they're within range. That was a very good sign to me of just, no matter what the conditions are entering the season, he has made the most of it, and he has managed to get them above that expectation.
What was their line this year?
47.5. They got to go 5-4.
Ooh, okay.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Probably. I'm
47.5. 47.5. Oh, yeah. They only need to go. Yeah, you're right. 5 wins. Yep, 5 will go the over.
5-4. Yep. So, probably going to have to be hedging at the end of the season. So it's going to be fun for me. But seriously, I think it's a testament to what Malone has done. We'll talk in segment 2 about the complexities of the decision from like an objective standpoint, right? And there's like good things about it and bad things about it. I think more than anything, it's another sign of how much this organization does believe in what they've built. If nothing else, I feel like this move signals to me that they are. I was starting to be concerned about, like, man, because I mean, I went to the arena. I'll tell you this: I went to the arena for the Clippers game, and I really didn't know what the future was going to be like. I was like, they're on this 2-game losing streak, and everything seems bad, and we don't know about Jamal, and there's all this confusion. And for them to come out with a win, and then this extension, to me, it does kind of reinforce the idea that the front office, for better or for worse, is like, no. We think we've got it. We think we've got the combination. We'll figure out the rest of it. But we think this coach with these players, when healthy, is it. This is the championship team.
I mean, there's no question this is a huge vote of confidence, especially the report that it is multiple years. I mean, you could have easily said hey, this year was a tough one. another 1+1. Basically, just kick the can down the road. Next year, you're back safe, and then you have that one buffer year, and that would have been it. But the fact that it was multiple years is a like, hey, this is a vote of confidence that the group we have, players, front office, coaching staff, we believe in this group. We think we're there. It might not happen this year, but we believe in it, and we're going to go to battle with this group of guys, and that includes the coach. And by the way, also in all of these reports, what is Malone? How many is he the 5th most tenured coach in the NBA now? Do you remember what the exact number was where his rank was?
I don't.
It's up there. I mean, there's Spoelstra, there's Popovich, there's Kerr, I think. It's a very, very, very short list of coaches who have more experience than him or been around longer than him. It's a hell of an achievement. It's a hell of an achievement to be this long. And the fact that just last year, and really even this year, you hear the players talk about how connected they feel and coach has their back in this or that. The fact that you've lasted this long and you haven't started to see the fraying of those things is really impressive.
Yeah, I think there's always been these moments where we've worried, I've worried, is the team going to quit on him? And especially, I'll say this, given his notorious nature as
a hothead.
Yeah. That pause was, do I want to parse it or not? I was like, do I want to phrase it as a hothead, or do I want to say,
he's called himself that in the past. Like, I think, come on, he's called himself this. Like, Michael Malone knows who he is.
And so he's a hothead. Now, in the beginning, in the first few years, that was really thought of as like, boy, I don't know if he's going to make it. That was like the going narrative was like, he's just too emotionally volatile in terms of getting, like, he takes these losses so personally and he gets so fired up, and he's an old school coach in terms of like the yelling and stuff like that. He's this blend of the new school coach that's very player friendly and very connected and believes in analytics to a degree and is very much inclusive, I think, from every indication I've been given. There's a hierarchy. He's not everyone's at the table, but he's at the head of the table, but there's other people at the table.
He's not Jim Boylan spouting out the craziness. He has that same intensity, but he's not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Honestly, this is one of the comparison that I've come to think of is in terms of a track, not in terms of the quality of the on-court decision making. That's not what I'm getting at here. But Rick Carlisle got a bad beat in Indiana, right? Like, he's the coach and things go a little awry, and he winds up, he loses out with Detroit and then Indiana, and then he winds up in Dallas. And he picks up in Dallas after Avery Johnson, after that team had been good, for sure. They still had their foundation intact. But that team didn't get, the team didn't make a finals run with Rick Carlisle immediately. It took a couple years. And it paid off. Like, that's a little bit of what the Nuggets are kind of banking on here. Like, that's one of the things I think is interesting, is that this move does kind of indicate that it's like, well, look, yeah, we think we can contend for a title next year. But we also think the title window extends beyond next year. If the bounces don't go our way, we're willing to say, like, no, we want to give this multiple cracks rather than next year. Now, the way next year goes can always change that. That's how it goes with coaching, right? Like, they can just fire him and pay him out if it goes terribly, terribly wrong. But the indication here is we're willing to give this multiple years for this to work out with this coach, with this group.
Yeah, multiple years. and that's exciting to me. I mean, it's weird because the Nuggets have been on this linear growth and they've just plateaued for reasons beyond their control. And you just kind of wondered, like, can those good feelings come back? That linear growth, the step by step. We don't skip steps. Every step. The Nuggets are kind of been on the same step for 2 years now, just because of acts of God. And it does feel like, the fact that this is a multi-year extension, it's like, sweet, we get to start climbing again and see where this takes us. So
I have one more question before we go to break. I have one more question for you. How much do you think Nikola Jokic influenced this decision?
A lot, but I don't know how much he did directly. I don't know if the front office sat down with Nikola Jokic or with his representatives or his agent and said, hey, do you have an inclination, or what do you think? I don't know if it was that much. I just think Tim Conley, his power, his skill set, the thing I think he's best at, and this includes, by the way, scouting. I think he's really good at connecting with people. And this includes like I just think that he is more connected than say even a Daryl Morey or something like this. Like I think he knows his people and knows how they think and feel. So did he ask, do you want him extended? I doubt he asked, but I think he knew.
That's a really good way to put it. I like that. Let's take a break. We'll come back and we'll talk more about Malone's extension, what it means for the future, the timing of it, all that. We'll do that when we come back on Locked On Nuggets. A congrats to Michael Malone on his extension. But first, gotta tell you about Prize Picks.
Okay.
It's Prize Picks time. It's Prize Picks time. All right, NBA fans, you're looking for a daily fantasy option for the NBA. You need to try this award-winning app, Prize Picks. Prize Picks is daily fantasy made easy. We love it, and we know that you will too. It's really easy to use. It's one of the things I like about the app is you open it up and it's very clear what you're doing. You're not confused. You're not trying to figure out complicated lineups or anything out. You just pick 2 to 5 players and an over-under on their projections. And you can win up to 10 times on an entry, and it's just you versus the projected numbers. Entries can be made in 60 seconds or less. It's that easy. Prize Picks is safe and offers fast withdrawals, and you can use the award-winning app on both the App Store and Google Play. They got a lot of options for you to choose from. You got points scored, rebounds, even steals. I love betting on steals. For some reason, Adam, it just sparks joy in me to bet on steals and blocks. Prize Picks allows mixed sport entries, so you can switch it up and throw in next football season the new wide receiver for the Miami Dolphins. And Prize Picks doesn't just offer NBA. They have options on the college basketball. I'm not actually that sad. College football, NFL,
this isn't you. Come on.
Soccer, MMA, and more. For a limited time, Prize Picks has an exclusive, no-brainer of an offer for all of our users. Users get $50 for free if a player in your first Prize Picks entry scores a single point. But you got to use code NBA. That's right, an exclusive offer just for our listeners. Use code NBA, and you get $50 for free if a player in your first Prize Picks entry scores a single point. Prize Picks is daily fantasy made easy. We'll be right back on Locked On Nuggets. Back here on Locked On Nuggets, thanks for joining us and making us part of your day and making us your first listen each and every day. Make your second listen Locked On Now. It's got nightly recaps of all the NBA games from our panel of local hosts. Check it out wherever you get podcasts. Locked On Now. Like I said, thanks for making us your first listen. We're free and available on all platforms, including YouTube, where you can join the show and ask questions like Eddie does, which is, Mars, if you would you trade MPJ for Zion? I don't know where that comes from, but
man, it's interesting, huh? Probably. I mean, Zion's upside as a player is probably, I don't know. He's just so dominant. He's so weird. I don't know.
So back to the question at hand with Michael Malone. My original point that I was trying to make is no coach wants to be lame duck. It's like, this is like the going thing is if you got one more year on your deal, you're constantly stressing. And a lot of coaches will like refuse to coach as a lame duck. They feel like they don't have any authority in the locker room. If it's like, well, you're going to be gone anyway. Why am I listening to you? You're out. And that's part of it. The financial security obviously is part of it. That's like the biggest, I think, part of it. So that's like a very big thing is like nobody wants to do that.
Yeah, I didn't know that was a question, but yes, absolutely, lame duck. That's a big. Coaches always obviously hate that. Mike runs hot, so I'm sure he hates it even more. It's a stress he just didn't need, so there's no question about it. We can ask now the conspiracy question.
Okay.
We can ask why now. Is there anything we can learn from this happening? Like, are there any motivations that we can decipher from this? And again, not saying that we know this, but just saying, like, is there anything we can extrapolate whether it's there or not?
I think for me, I wonder if this was, there have been extensions along the way for him that have always seemed to come at a moment where it seemed like Malone needed it, where the stress of whatever was happening was getting to him. And I think like he's been pretty open and honest about how hard the last 3 years have been on him, like starting with the bubble and then last season on a shortened schedule. And then this year. And I kind of knew that I think next year he'll be back to whatever version of normal Michael Malone is, whatever version of normal NBA coaches are, right? He'll be back to normal, I think, next season. But I think he's still dealing, as most of us are, with the collective trauma of the pandemic and everything that has gone on. And so I think I lean more towards the idea that this needed to get done to fix how Malone was reacting with certain things and improve the overall morale. Rather, not that like it's like, oh, we need a morale boost. Let's give Malone like $8 million. But they were gonna do it. Let's go ahead and get it done. This, I think it also solves the question of like, he's not going into a playoff series without Jamal and MPJ, or with a half compromised Jamal and MPJ, or whatever version they get, if they get a version, trying to think like, if I don't win this series, I'm gonna be a lame duck and I'm gonna get fired.
No question. So if you ask me like why did it happen now, I think my number one option would just be because it was the end of the year and it was time and like whatever like that. Meaning something unremarkable. My number two, if you just game theory this out, there's two scenarios to the Nuggets season. One, it ends in disappointment. One, it ends, you're kind of impressed. If you're impressed, do you lose something with the Michael Malone? You sign him, then it was like, yeah, you made him prove himself once again. Like he did all these, they took him to the Western Conference Finals. He won a round last year when he lost everybody. And maybe that's, you didn't want that. Or maybe you lose it and then you offer him like, hey, we were always going to give him an extension. Yeah, but you missed the playoffs and then you extended him. That's a terrible move. That looks bad. So maybe this was one of those where it's like, we're going to do this now. So everybody understands, including Michael Malone, including the players, that this was a decision that we had that was beyond whatever happens in the season. Like we understand the circumstances. We still expect greatness, but we understand there's extenuating circumstances. The third reason, there's four. The third reason could be that, as you mentioned, Michael Malone just benched the starters. He's been running extra hot. Maybe this was a like, hey, relax. The same way we could talk about maybe for players like, hey, don't worry about your contract. We're going to pay you. You get Aaron Gordon. You don't need to score points this year to make us pay you. We paid you. We need you to do this things. Relax. Maybe it's the same with Malone. Like, relax with these guys. The final one, and this is my favorite one to think about, even though I don't necessarily think it's true, but hey, why not? It would be interesting if Michael Porter Jr. showed up as a questionable or probable or a return to the lineup in the next 3 days. We'll say maybe not as early as tomorrow against Phoenix.
Can't be that obvious.
Maybe we got to like pump the brakes a little, like make this, but maybe on Saturday or something like that. And maybe it hinted towards Michael Malone is saying, you want me to play a guy coming off of back surgery who already doesn't remember the playbook and can't guard anyone. And you want me to bring him back into a lineup when if we lose one game, we fall out of the playoffs. And I don't have an assurance from you guys that I'm not going to get fired if I miss the playoffs. There's always the chance that maybe there's this tension back. And this is the front office and the organization's way of saying, we need you to play Michael Porter. We need you to play Jamal Murray. They might be terrible, but let's get this out of the way and do this. So I don't think this is why, but hey, there's at least dots that when you connect them, it makes a straight line.
I will laugh if MPJ pops up on the questionable report.
Tomorrow would be the funniest if it was just
that would be the funniest. We're gonna have to do an emergency pod of just you and I laughing for 30 minutes if that's what happens. So I think part of the dynamics with this too are. So I've tried to be critical of Malone this year. My pushback is always on the idea of firing him. And the problem, I'll say this is a self-criticism of mine. The problem is I spend more time trying to argue against the points I don't think should be made versus the points I think should. And so like I've tried this year to say like, I didn't think he coached that game well. I didn't like that decision. I disagree with benching the starters the other night. I was like, literally, like I said dumb on Twitter and I was like, well, I'm not really qualified to say if it's dumb or not, but I don't get this.
Sure.
Like this is a lot here. I think he's had a really rough season. I think he hung with some of the bench rotation decisions too long and it cost him early. All these things. What I've also tried to remember, again, they go 5-4, and despite losing MPJ and Dozier and having to pick up Bryn Forbes and DeMarcus Cousins as signature additions alongside playing the 26th pick in the draft as a rookie, they can go over again. They can win up to 48 games, possibly more. Like that to me shows what one of the things it does. I'll say this. Everyone will say, well, yeah, because of Joker. And I not debating. I've seen coaches take better rosters under better conditions with a little bit of adversity and it fall apart. And if you want to look at a good example of that, it's 2015-16 with the Houston Rockets and Kevin McHale. It just like fell apart that year.
Mm,
Like, it was just very clear that McHale had lost the locker room,
mm.
right? Things got tough, and everyone like bailed on McHale, including James Harden, not the first or the last time. Um, Again, love Harden's game. Conversely, with Malone, they've still won. Like, yeah, Jokic is incredible, and Jokic is the best player, and I think Jokic is going to win MVP and all these things, and he's the most impactful, and he's raised up a roster that should not be this good, right? But at the very least, Malone did not prevent them from being 12 games over 500.
Right. Right.
You know, like
No,
if
of course.
if this is the, I guess here's the thing: if this is the bad year for Malone, it's pretty good, and his good years have been great, right?
It's true. It's true. Yeah, there's no question about it. I mean, he's been great. What did you think about my conspiracy theories, though? Is there anything else? I mean, do you just think it could be just the timing, or do you think maybe it was both the timing and the like, hey man, we're on a razor's edge here. We need everybody de-stressed.
Yeah.
Like, hey, we always were going to extend you. Now you know that. So relax and let's try to gain something out of these final games. And if Murray and Porter come back, great. If not, we got this. We got 2 more years at this.
The starters are benched on Sunday, and he signed to an extension on Wednesday. Right? Like, now,
He's got to start benching the starters all the
time. Now I'll also say this: like, it's not like they just picked up the phone and did the deal on Monday, right? This has been in the works for like a long time. I can't tell you, like, the conversations didn't start until this season. They didn't start because I checked in on it before the season, and so it had to have been in the fairly recent stretch. But I do think on some level you have to be impressed. One of the things I think that's been interesting is the national voices that look at it from a big picture perspective rather than the micro system, which fans are always going to look at because they watch the games, right? But you've seen reporters like Sam Amick, you've seen comments from Chris Haynes, you've seen Adrian Wojnarowski's comments, you've seen national voices really say, like, the Nuggets are still good. Like, they lost Jamal and then MPJ, and they're still here. You know, Malone gets mentioned along with Joker in the success of that. I guess here is a question for you. When's Joker up for extension? When's his contract?
This summer. He can sign a Supermax this summer.
And then his contract expires when?
Well, a Supermax is a 5 year, so he would.
No, if he doesn't.
Oh, his regular contract. I think he would still have another year or two. Let me.
So that's the thing, right? Is like, if Jokic were to not sign the Supermax, or I don't want to go down this road, but if the Nuggets for whatever reason were to not sign Joker to a Supermax, then like the two timelines would correlate, right?
Yeah.
Like the idea of seeing, you said see it through, right? Like following through. I do want to say though, there's been comments in here in the comment section about like, well, we're stuck with them for the duration, and I just want to be like, one, you're not stuck with him. He's a pretty good coach, and you're fortunate to have him. Two, no, you're not. This is the NBA. Coaches get fired, and teams just pay off their contracts all the time. So just so we're clear on this, I just want to make it clear. Everyone always thinks that coaches are going to play out the length of their contract. No one ever plays out coaches out the length of their contract, except for George Karl. That's the exception. Like, that was the exception to the rule. So that's like, I think is something to kind of keep in mind there as well.
Yeah, no question about it. I'm fingers crossed though. We get MPJ news tomorrow. It would be too funny.
I'm just trying to think of like, I guess here's the thing. I'm just trying to think of like how.
Let's see if he was ruled out. He might have been ruled out already. Actually, yeah, he's out. He's ruled as out on the game note. So
that can change. Don't. Come on now. Come on now. Tomorrow morning's report comes out, and it's like, oh, update. Michael Porter Jr. has been upgraded to questionable for today's contest. Like, that's how it's going to be. I'll tell you that. That's at this point. I've said this. This is how I think if/when either of those guys come back, this is what will happen. Is I think the injury reports due at 11. I'm not sure. You could check me on that. Whenever the report is due, 15 minutes before, Woj will tweet.
Yeah.
And then the press release, and then the official designation will come out. That's how it will go. And then we'll see, and what's going to be crazy too is like he'll be pregame, and that'll be the first question asked from Malone. He'll be like, well, we'll see. Don't know. We'll see how he's doing. He's questionable. We'll see if he plays. Are you glad that Malone's back?
Yeah, I am. I like Michael Malone a lot personally and as a coach. And um, while I think there are coaches that would maybe do things that are more interesting, when you talk about the aggregate of what he brings to the table, I think this is the thing is I think people will tend to like, oh, can you get a Nick Nurse or a Brad Stevens or a Mike D'Antoni or somebody that's going to do this crazy thing and Jokic's going to have a 50-point triple double? How fun would that be? And it's like, that's a part of coaching. I think Michael Malone is really, when you add up all of the little pieces that he does, and I saw somebody earlier say he's not a good X's and O's coach. I think he is. I think he's a great one, especially in the playoffs. So is he one of the most outside the box thinkers? No. But by the way, sometimes that stuff is more delegated to assistants anyway. So
You
I think
wanna
he's a good coach.
So I was arguing with Part now about this, as I often do about everything. And um, one of the things I did was I just pulled up like the list of teams that use zone, the top 10 teams that use zone this season. And like all of the coaches that are considered super geniuses are on the list of teams. Notably, Michael Malone not on that list. But like that to me is a good example of this. Like, do you try janky weirdo defenses? Like that's like part of like the equation for do fans think that you're a genius? That to
Right.
me is
It's
a
so
lot of it.
true.
And
So
and I'll
true.
say this too. As much as I kind of say like I think that his greater command of coaching is better than the individual pieces. I don't know. Like that's from conversations with players and other people rather than, knowing those things. Like this is always the thing I'm trying to dig at is like what is it that makes these coaches good? What makes them successful? What gets guys to buy in? What gets guys to believe and what changes? But ultimately, it's funny. You put it really well. That was just a really great way to describe it. There are other coaches that might be more interesting. I thought that was like a really good way to encapsulate what I think a lot of people kind of think and feel. My thing is always that whenever you start the conversation about him, I say you have to tell me who you're going to get that's going to be better. That you
Right.
know
Right.
that you've just like you're 100% certain is going to be better. And the list of those guys, I think, is very short. Let's take a break. We'll come back and we'll do a real quick preview of the Suns game. We will look at the Western Conference and what happened around the league tonight, and we'll wrap up here on Locked On Nuggets. But first, it's that time. Yes, friends, it's time for everyone's favorite read. It's Built Bar time. Okay, so um, I have not. I've been working a lot. I deleted a draft entirely last night of a 3,000 word column, and that was unfortunate for me and my editors.
On accident?
Yep, just control.
Oh, oh, what are we doing?
Just press space instead of didn't. There was no Control Z to be found, and so I was up late and I needed something to keep me going. So I turned to a Built Bar. Got myself a good one of the puffs. It's a marshmallow infused with protein, covered in 100% real chocolate. Had one of the churro ones. It's excellent. You got coconut marshmallow, banana cream pie. They're all awesome. You've also got most Built Bar contain just 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, 4 net carbs, and 17 grams of protein. Compare that to a candy bar, which has got over 240 calories and 30 grams of sugar. You're getting a way better deal with a Built Bar, and they're still covered in 100% chocolate. Mint brownie, coconut almond. My favorite's raspberry. You got white chocolate cookies and cream. They're all delicious, and all new flavors are coming out all the time. Check them all out at built.com. We'll be right back on Locked On Nuggets. Final segment here on Locked On Nuggets. Thanks for joining us and making this part of your day and your first listen each and every day. Second listen, check out Locked On NBA because you got me on Tuesdays with David Ramil, and you got Adam on Fridays hanging out. Wes Goldberg, because you got David, you got Wes, and I got David, and those two used to be together. That's how I remember that. That's right. So you can get their thoughts on the games, especially maybe some follow up to what happened with the Miami Heat tonight, because woo, that got spicy.
And what do you make of that?
I go back and forth because I've seen guys get into it on the sidelines and coaches yell and all that stuff. But then you got like Jimmy Butler's history and Jimmy Butler and like them
You don't
literally
like
being
Jimmy
like,
Butler, right? You don't worship
I'm
at
not
the
a
altar
Jimmy
of
guy.
Jimmy Butler. You're not a Jimmy
I
guy.
I'm not a Jimmy guy. Uh, my favorite line about Jimmy was that everyone talks about how hard Jimmy Butler works, and I had an executive once say, Jimmy Butler is the hardest working man in the NBA at telling you how hard he works. That is the Jimmy Butler line. Gonna be interesting. Having UD be the one that was up in his face, that's a whole other dynamic. They swore it was fine, but we'll see. Dan Levitard was kind of like taken aback by it, and he's Miami local. He understands these things pretty well. Dan's pretty smart, so I thought that was notable. So let's talk real quick about the Suns game, and then we'll look around the West tonight. Suns win tonight versus the Wolves. Cat got an absolutely monster dunk on Jay Crowder and said he was too small. And then, unfortunately, as much as I like Cat, he scored 3 points the rest of the game. And the Suns blew out the Minnesota Timberwolves. So the Wolves now 2 back in the loss column from your Denver Nuggets. That is quite the turnaround very quickly here with just 9 games left. The Wolves now have to make up 2 in the loss column over the final.
It probably comes down at this point. There's still a lot that could happen, but it probably comes down to that play. Like if Denver beats Minnesota in that head-to-head, then you're talking about a huge gap there. So that game now, you win that one, you probably got it. We'll see.
For sure. The Dallas game, I think, also matters quite a bit.
That's the next one too, isn't it?
Yeah, they just played Phoenix. They could play Dallas and be on a 3-game losing streak going into the weekend.
And then they have Boston after that, and then at Toronto. Whoo!
Yeah.
There'd be nothing better. Honestly, this is so ridiculous. It's so silly, but there'd be nothing better for them to lose their next 3 games coming into the Denver game. Because if that one, it would in effect make that matchup with Minnesota the last game of the Nuggets this season, which would be great. You play that one. If you get a win, great. If you get a loss, it's tough. But if you get a win, great. You got 5 games left of the season to kind of sort yourself out. 4 games left. Sort yourself out and figure out, can you play guys that are coming back? Can you just kind of relax a little bit and prepare for the playoffs? Be great.
The Suns are on a back-to-back for today's game when you're listening to this.
What's your prediction here, Matt? You gotta go on record here. What are they? It would be idiotic for them to play their guys.
Oh, I think they're playing their guys.
Why?
I think this team is one of those teams that has taken it personally.
Sweet.
I understand where you're getting at. But look, Joker plays a lot of the time when he shouldn't.
It's true.
It's
idiotic. Look, the odds are in the favor. They do play. The odds are in their favor that nothing's going to happen. It would be tough. And by the way, it'd be tough for Denver because Phoenix is really good, even without Chris Paul. They just execute, man. They're kind of like the Celtics. They just execute. They punish you if you make mistakes. Denver makes a lot of mistakes still, even when they're locked in. So it would be a tough one, even with Denver. I'm not saying Denver would lose, but I am saying that would be a really tough one for Denver to win. But it would be so dumb for a team that is up 9 games. They only need 1 win for the rest of the season for them to lock up the number 1 seed in the league overall. Actually,
yes.
Yeah, in the entire league. So they'll have home court throughout the playoffs if they just get 1 out of their final 9 games as a win. If they were to travel and play the second night of a back-to-back and risk injury to one of their key guys, Mikal Bridges played 39 minutes tonight. What happens to the Phoenix Suns title odds if they lost Mikal Bridges?
Massive. They drop a couple hundred points.
They go from favorites or co-favorites or second or third to probably 5th, 6th, 7th, and maybe even lower than that.
Not that much, but significant. Yeah.
I wouldn't like them without Mikal Bridges. He's a huge piece. He is part of the thing that makes them so good.
Yeah, I would agree that I don't think that your estimation is wrong. I just think that the odds wouldn't move that much, which is a pedantic point. I think if we look at the value here, I'll say this: one of the things that they're chasing is they're chasing the best record in franchise history. That's where they're at.
63.
And you could say,
so they need 4 wins.
Mm-hmm. They can do it. Yeah, I think you can definitely say there's nothing on the line. That's been pretty apparent with the Suns. There's been nothing on the line, and they're still tearing through everyone.
It's not that nothing's been they're too far out to outright tank, especially they played tonight. They had 3 days off going into this game, so I understand it. But a back-to-back. Here's their schedule, by the way. I didn't pull it up. It's kind of funny. They probably had the easiest schedule to date. They finished the year at Denver. They play 76ers, at Golden State, at Memphis, at Oklahoma City, Lakers, Clippers, Utah, Sacramento. So I was looking for gimmies. At Oklahoma City and Sacramento are the only gimmies in there. The rest of them are tough games. Even for them, they're tough games.
Yeah, yeah. That all the teams have these like stretches of really tough games because the NBA likes to project itself as like it's the playoff race and all the games matter in March. And what
It's so true.
well, I will say
It's
what's
so
funny,
true.
yeah, and I will say though this is one of the things that the play-in has fixed.
Yeah, it's true.
Like the play-in has made all these. It's like Suns Nuggets actually doesn't matter that much for the Suns tomorrow. Like every game matters for the Nuggets, but doesn't
Yeah.
really matter for the Suns tomorrow at all. But Nuggets Wolves, massive game.
Massive game. Yep.
Friday's Wolves Mavericks game, massive. Like
Yeah.
this is where it's changed. Is the middle now really? All these games really matter. I'll just tell you right now, I think the Suns are winning this game.
Well, damn. If they play their guys, I mean, I'm with you. Like Denver, they're good. I want to see them be great. By the way, we didn't even mention the Celtics tonight smacked the hell out of the Utah Jazz. Like,
They hit their first
I'm telling
10
you,
shots.
so much of our perspective on the Nuggets hails from the fact that the Celtics just clowned them. And it's like, man, the Celtics have clowned the entire NBA for about 2 months. Like,
Yes, I was
maybe
thinking
we
that
should put
exact
that
same
in the
thing.
box over here and
Yeah,
forget
Yeah.
about it.
yeah. It's just like, yeah, the Celtics destroyed everybody. Like maybe you lost in overtime to the Cavs, and then the Celtics, who have annihilated everyone, gotcha. Okay, but if you want the counterpoint, it's Dallas did beat them. That's like a big counterpoint. So yeah, I think that they play their guys. Somebody asked in the comments about Chris Paul. Chris Paul did not play tonight. Cam Thomas did not play tonight. He is close. I wouldn't be surprised if Paul came back and Booker rested. That wouldn't shock me, right? You get these guys back, you play Cam Thomas and Chris Paul, you rest Devin Booker and Jay Crowder or whoever else, and you just like stagger it that way, and then you get them back into full strength. That wouldn't be like they can do that. They have enough continuity to not have to worry about it. So that wouldn't shock me, and that would obviously I think swing things in the Suns' favor again. The Suns are fair, or the Nuggets are favored tomorrow. They're 2-point favorites versus the Phoenix Suns. Do you think they're going to get this win? Because do you think the Suns
I do, because I think it would be absolutely insane for Phoenix to try to get this one with their key guys. Like, to me, if I were running them, there's just no question I would rest Bridges, I would rest Ayton, and I would rest Devin Booker. Why on earth would you risk playing those guys?
Some guys just want to win, Adam.
So true. They want to win big, though. They're a team that I do think they want the record, and you're right. You look at the schedule and like
they're on a revenge tour. They're just really pissed about losing the finals. They feel like they were the better team, and they're
be on a revenge tour in the playoffs. Look, we'll find out what happens. I will say they have 2 back-to-backs. So tomorrow is a back-to-back, and then they have another back-to-back when they play the Lakers Clippers, and that's another travel when they play the Lakers in Phoenix, and then they travel to LA for the Clippers. That's another back-to-back. It would be insane to me if they were to play those games.
Aiden had 35 tonight, by the way. He's quite a good player. Nuggets magic number with the Wolves loss on Wednesday is now 8 for a top 6 seed. That's combined wins and losses by the Minnesota Timberwolves. So if you look through their schedule, you can just go through the Wolves schedule and go, I think they're going to lose. I'm sorry, it's 9. Nope, no, I was right the first time. It's 8. It's 8. Go through the Wolves schedule and figure out how many losses you think the Wolves will have the rest of the season. And then that 8 minus that number tells you the number of wins that the Nuggets need to get the at least the 6th seed.
Here's what's funny. If they lose to Dallas on Friday, the number changes. Like right now, if you ask me, I think they probably lose 3 more games because you've got Dallas, Boston, Toronto, at Denver. I think they lose 3 of those 4. But if they lose to Dallas, this first one, I think they're definitely losing to Boston. Everybody loses to Boston right now. Then I think like the number actually might balloon up even a little bit higher than that, just because at that point, the gap between the 7 and 8 is so big that if you end up falling like 3 or 4 games behind Denver with 6 to go, you're probably just like, what's the point anymore?
Yeah, like we're not catching. So you're hoping for a real miracle at that point.
Oh, I like this one. You didn't think of this narrative. You love narratives. They're not losing the Malone extension game validation. This is to come out. Our coach just got an extension. Let's go out. Let's win one for the Gipper.
This is the inverse of the coaches fired game.
Yeah.
You always put on the team after they fire their coach because they want
It
to
actually would be peak hilarity if they come out tomorrow just flat.
Just flat. Don't. Just get destroyed.
No execution on the
No,
defenseman. Just
just nothing.
zero execution.
Just transition buckets everywhere. So many rage timeouts. Um, I do like this comment from Black Mama here. Why are we scared of the play-in again? If we can't beat the Clippers or Lakers in the most important games of the season, why would we even bother to tire Jokic in the playoffs? That's how I feel.
Man, you guys are crazy. I mean, again, like I think Denver should win one of those ones, but the Clippers are tough. I'm telling you, they did not put their best foot forward. You might get Paul George back. The Lakers might get Anthony Davis back. Those are tough games, man. I'm not saying Denver shouldn't win. Sure, they should win, but do you want to? Their odds aren't 100%. You go to the play-in, your odds are not 100% of going to
Yeah,
the playoffs.
and
If you
like you
make
can
the
just
playoffs, they are 100% in.
you can also just get like shooting variance, right? I just am more of the thought of like, are you in or are you out? Like, can you do this or not? And if you can do it, make the run. I also like them in any sort of spot where their backs are against the wall. That's where I want the Denver Nuggets. That's the spot where I'm like, I like Denver in the spot. When they're comfortable and they're playing a team with nothing to play for or starters are resting, that's when I'm like, oh boy, this is dangerous. A couple other notes before we get out of here. You mentioned the Utah loss. So Utah falls into a tie now with the Dallas Mavericks at 28 losses, just 2 ahead of your Denver Nuggets.
They're sputtering too. Like the thing is not just that they've lost some of these games and look, it's the Celtics. Again, the Celtics I put this on Twitter. Everybody's going through an existential crisis after the Celtics come to town and just smack them. And Utah's going through that now, but that's a team that I've always felt was so close to chaos, and we'll just find out. But now they have at Charlotte, at Dallas, at Clippers, Lakers, Golden State, Memphis. They have Phoenix late. Who knows if Phoenix will be trying at that point? So they actually only have 2 gimmies at Oklahoma City and Portland. Those are the only 2 gimmies on the schedule. The rest of them are going to be teams that are trying to win. I don't know. You just never know. I'm not counting on it, but that's a team that if they lost at Charlotte, and Charlotte, by the way, I think has the longest win streak in the NBA right now. They play them on Friday. If they lose to them before heading to Dallas and then the Clippers, who knows? Maybe they will fall.
The Grizzlies are safe. The Warriors are in free fall, but they're also 5 games up in the loss column. That's going to be. I don't think that's reasonable to think that they're going to
for Denver. Oh, come on.
I mean, look, I got Golden State people, Golden State fans in my mention saying that they were going to go 1-9 the rest of the way. They got the 1 tonight versus.
That's hilarious. Are you serious?
Yeah. They really.
It's so funny. Honestly, Matt, we've done the show so many times. It's so funny following this week by week basis because, like, Miami, obviously the 1 seed. It's like, okay, they're sneaky, they're sleepy team. They're starting to get smacked. They're stumbling across the finish line. You've got teams like Brooklyn, and it's just the momentum can shift. Boston, who was kind of below the radar all the way up until about 3-4 weeks ago, is all of a sudden maybe the number 1 team in the NBA. It's funny how the narratives that have followed for most of the year have started to flip a little bit, and some of the teams that are becoming the hot teams right now are different. I thought the Warriors were going to be the hot team. Now you look at them and you're like, man, are they falling apart?
Yeah, everything. The only team that I think feels good right now is the Suns and the Celtics. And the Bucks. Those are the 3 teams.
I think the Grizzlies feel good. They just got a great vibes win tonight without Ja.
Yeah, that was a really good win, which is going to spark a whole lot of conversation about the wins without Ja. Okay, so the Nuggets. I'll say this: you feeling better about the play-in situation? 2 games up on the Wolves. They got the Mavericks on Friday, and then the Celtics. You were very doom and gloom on Sunday about it, so I want to gauge your temperature here.
I'm in the same spot. I'm in the exact same spot. I've got to see if the Nuggets on Sunday wake up on Sunday still 2 or 3 games up on the Timberwolves. I'll feel good about it. I mean, they should win their 2 home games. We'll see what Minnesota does, but I'm not ready to declare it just yet.
All right, it's going to wrap it up for Locked On Nuggets. Thanks for joining us and making us part of your day. Make sure you guys have yourselves a great week. Tomorrow, I'll have an episode with Zach Bai from 104.3 The Fan and host of the Mile High Hoops podcast. Check that out in your feeds, and then we'll have post-game reaction after the game versus the Phoenix Suns as well to wrap up your week. And we'll get you covered all through the weekend and throughout the rest of the regular season and into the playoffs. Adam, less than 3 weeks. The playoffs are going to be here. It's less than 3 weeks. And the postseason will be here. Whether the Nuggets are in the playoffs or the postseason, we'll figure that out. Thanks for joining us. Have yourselves a great night. I'm Matt Moore for Adam Mares.